Hey, you got Big Rich Brock. Come on, somebody. So glad you're tuning in to the podcast today. Hope you're having a great day. If you haven't followed me yet on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, hey, if they make it, I'm on it, except for Pornhub. And any of the stuff you can find out there, follow Big Rich Brock Comedy. What I've learned being in my 50s doing comedy is the social media side of this, man, huge learning curve. Huge. But that's almost a Trump impression there. But I'm learning as I go along, and the more followers, the better. And one of the things I want to talk about today, and I think it's cool because we're in the middle, summer's winding up. Shout out to all the teachers, all the folks in the school system. You're gearing up to educate our kids and get them back in the fold. We appreciate you. I always joke around at my shows. I do a lot of wineries and breweries, coffee shops. I rarely meet teachers at coffee shops. They're always at the other one. And I understand why. I can't imagine 8 hours a day with 30 kids or however many are in your class. But I started thinking about when I was a kid and growing up in the 1900s, come on, somebody. And a lot of you that keep up with the podcast, you're there. You were 1900s baby too. So I think about the summer. And man, my summers, I'm an only child. So as my mama said, when you have the best, why have any more? And my daddy said, don't kid yourself. We're scared to death to have another one after raising you. But my routine, my mom went back to work when I was in third grade. And then she worked for the district attorney's office in the community that I grew up in. And when your daddy is the mailman in town and your mother works for the DA, you can't get away with nothing. Man, everybody knew my business every day, in Chickamauga, Georgia and Walker County. But when my mom went back to work, in the summers, I would stay at my Mama Brock's, my grandmother's, and I was the baby on the Brock side. My mother's side of the family, the Lowry side, in the grandkids, I'm up the food chain. I'm like second from the oldest. Me and one of my cousins are a couple months apart. But on the Brock side, I was like 6 years younger than the next grandchild out of 5. So man, I got treated like a king. My grandmother doted on me, took care of me. My cousin, if he's watching, he used to tease that she would lock him in the closet to punish him, and I'm laying on satin sheets in the living room getting fed grapes and being fanned. That's the difference between being the baby, come on somebody, and being the middle child or the oldest child. But I love staying over there. But what I would have to do, my father worked one direction, my mother the other. So I would have to get up in the summer at 5:30 a.m. every day, Monday through Friday. And that means semi-awake. And then I would get in my dad's truck. And my dad, I don't know about your family, but when I was growing up, we were a 2-car family. We had a new car or newer car, and my mother drove it, and then we had an old truck. And my dad would swap and trade truck. And when I say old truck, I mean, he kept them nice, man. People loved to buy a truck from Lynn Brock because they knew it was taken care of. But, man, he traded, and he might get a new truck every year and a half, 2 years, wheeling and dealing, and that's what they did. There was a time he bought the same truck twice over 6 or 7 years. So, and they were always, older models, dependable, haul stuff to the landfill, move furniture, the reason you have a truck. So I would get in that truck at 5:30 in the morning, blanket, whatever I wanted for the day, and then I would just sit there. No conversation because it's 5:30 in the morning. And my dad would drive. It'd take about 20 minutes. And we would drive into Chickamauga, past the one red light, go down to Mill Village, and I'd get out at my grandmother's. And she'd be waiting on me. And I can still remember, man, my pap worked for Lee Smith Truck Parts in Chattanooga, Tennessee. He delivered truck parts and things like that for the last, 10, 15 years of his career. And he would be getting ready. And he was the only family member. I had a lot of people in my family that were Christian, and love God. But he was the one I remember that every day he would sit down and read his Bible before he went to work, and he would have prayer. And I would be pulling in. Maybe he was reading it to get some inspiration before I rolled in there. I don't know. But I'd be walking in the house and he'd be finishing up his Bible study, have his coffee, be sitting there in uh, not the top proper term, but you know what I'm talking about, a wife beater. He'd have on that white T-shirt, about to put on his dress shirt, always wore a white dress shirt every day to work, roll the sleeves up about 3/4. And when he'd get home that night, my grandmother knew where he had had lunch. You know what I'm saying? There'd be a little mustard stain from a hot dog or a little chili or wherever he went. But I could remember all that vividly. And then he would head out to work. And then I'm sitting there, I'd have breakfast, we'd hang out a little bit, and then I'm just waiting for kids to wake up because it's Mill Village. And if you don't understand Mill Village, every rural town, I guess north and south, that's got a mill that is really where everybody worked. In the 1950s in Chickamauga, the mill not only was where everybody worked, it also was the town doctor was brought in by them, the grocery store. They leased out houses. They had a bank. I mean, it was truly a mill village, but all these shotgun houses, for you young bucks, if you can go through the front door and shoot a shotgun, it goes out the back. That's a shotgun house, 2 doors. That's it. Nice little place, but they're just stacked on top of each other. So I'm basically waiting for kids to wake up. Now, being an only child, I was talking to a buddy about this the other day. We weren't wealthy people, but when you're an only, my parents both worked government jobs, but it was in the 1900s. It was a better job than it is now. Post office, legal secretary for a district attorney, good benefits, good vacation. But when you raise one child instead of 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, you get to do more stuff. Money is not such a big issue as it would be. I have 3 sons, and I know the difference between the expense of 1, 2, and 3. And as life develops, you want to stay ahead as a parent financially to give your kids the kind of life that you had or better. And I remember when my first bicycle, I don't remember what brand. I just remember, orange with a black seat, the banana type seat. Learned to ride. Well, before that, a smaller one, the whole training wheels, kick them off, move on up. But then the first bike I remember getting for Christmas one year, and I think I was maybe 8, 9 years old. I got a Schwinn 10-speed, metallic blue, a little bit smaller, I think maybe the 24-inch or 26. But man, that bike was like, I remember us going to pick it out. And man, that thing was like showroom. It was like picking out a Cadillac at the Schwinn bicycle store. And I thought, man, if I got something like that, wow. Christmas morning, there it was. And man, I rode that bike in the summertime. And it's so crazy because with my kids growing up, we lived in an HOA that had primarily where they were raised, there was a public golf course. We were a member of the swimming pool. There was tennis courts. There was a little lake to go fishing in. And you didn't go, my kids had bikes, but they rarely rode a bike anywhere. And we played travel sports and we played Little League and all this stuff. Where I was a kid, I played Little League baseball, Dixie Youth. Come on, somebody. Shout out Dixie Youth. Football for the Chickamauga Rec. I'll have to find it. I got a picture when I played football my first year, and our jerseys were full-length sleeve, and they were like, it wasn't wool, but it felt like it. It looked like something Red Grange would wear. We're out there sweating bullets and those things. Same way with the baseball uniforms. Those Babe Ruth uniforms, cotton, full, crazy hot. So basketball, played it. But in the summer, it was get on that bicycle, and I would ride down to Chickamauga, the town. If you've ever been there, you know it. It's still pretty similar. If you hadn't, it's a great day trip. Go out Chickamauga, great restaurants, a lot of historic things. shops everywhere. Go by the Gordon Lee Mansion. Go by and see my statue. Big Rich, you got a statue in Chickamauga? Where's it at? Right in front of my museum. Come on, somebody. I'm just teasing you, but maybe we'll have one day. My dad at the front of the post office, they wanted to put his statue out front because they said he was the best letter carrier the town ever had, but that's still in the works. They're trying to work on it. But I would ride that bike. And man, I'd lead out at 8 a.m. and I would pedal through town. For my grandmother's, it was about a mile. But I would drive and pedal through all the town and stop at stores. And I had a list of places like I'd go by Western Auto and see Mr. Clifford Deck. He owned the place. I'd go in there, browse around, maybe have some money to get a new wiffle ball so we could play some wiffle ball later. Because if you play wiffle ball, the game's great until you lose the ball. You either hit it into the woods and can't find it. You hit it over the fence to the neighbor that the dogs don't cooperate. They chew it up. So Mr. Dad could see me coming and, hey, how you doing, little Richie? And we'd sit there and talk and all that. Then I would go by and see Virginia McGill at the power. I think it was the Georgia Power or Gas. And she was there. And then I'd go over to Price Pharmacy. Then I'd go and I'd make my rounds. Man, I was like 10 and I was like a 60-something-year-old man, I'm going around making my rounds, talking to everybody, trying to be the mayor of Chickamauga. But I'm doing all this because everybody else is asleep. All the kids my age, and you might have been that kid. I'd been up since 5:30. I wasn't going back to sleep. I still, to this day, at 58 years old, of the taping of this, I still don't go back to sleep because I think I might miss something. I want to be up, doing stuff, seeing what's happening. So about 10:30, come on, somebody, the rest of the neighborhood at Mill Village would wake up. And then I'd go gather them. Shout out to my buddy Michael Wallen, my buddy Dallin Garrett. I'd grab them and we'd get together. And then there was a family that lived in Mill Village, and all the kids were named after celebrities. Oh, Big Rich, you're kidding. No, for real. The oldest one, well, he wasn't really a celebrity. He was named after Robert E. Lee, the Confederate general. That was his name, Robert E. Lee, and then his last name. Then his brother was Clint Eastwood, and his last name. And then we had John Wayne, and their last name. And then the Lord blessed them with a little girl, Tammy Wynette, and their last name. And you're like, oh, Big Rich, you're making that up. If I made it up, it'd be Dolly Parton. Come on, somebody. And this family, man, they were an interesting bunch. And we'd grab those kids. And then we'd shout out to my buddy Andy Keith, and Todd and Andy were like me. They'd stay with their grandparents sometimes. And whoever was in the neighborhood, the late Greg Landers, my friend, we would get together and we're going. You ever seen the movie Sandlot? We were the Sandlot. I mean, for you guys under 30 that think, man, wonder if that really happened. It happened every day. We would gather people and go to Dan McNally Field and we'd play baseball. There might be 5 of us. There might be 6. And over the day, it would grow and we would have enough to field every position. And then one guy get to bat. And then after he batted, you rotate it around, go through all 9, maybe do it again if it wasn't too hot. And we'd be out there for 3 or 4 hours. And then we'd go get Coca-Cola somewhere. Coca-Cola's, Big Rich. Yeah, I'm from the South. Pepsi's cough medicine. Come on, somebody. We'd get Cokes, or as my grandpa called them, dopes. And we'd get us a Coke, hang out, and then we'd go to the pool. Or sometimes we'd go old school and go to the quarry. Man, my mama's like, you don't go down that quarry. There's bad people down there at the quarry. Well, the quarry's where all the cool kids went, and that's where you could, cold water, good, nice, comfortable. But we were Pine Forest pool people. My daddy's like, we'll pay the little membership and you go to the pool and stay out of trouble. And they had lifeguards and all that stuff. So that was a summer day, man. Go play baseball all day or go play wiffle ball all day. One time in the summer, we got into archery. Lord, that was a mistake. I mean, I got a bow and arrow. I'm like 132nd Cherokee. I don't know nothing about bow and arrows, And I remember I got one for Christmas, and so did Michael Wallen. And we made a target in his backyard. And we're out there, 10 years old. I'm 10, he's probably 9, 8, and we're shooting bow and arrows. Real eras now. We ain't talking about, well, they were bought at Kmart or Western Auto, but they were real eras. And then we get bored. And what did you do? Then we start shooting them straight up in the air. And then we got to see who can stay still the longest without getting hit. Why? Because our mamas worked. And my grandma was down the street canning vegetables and doing stuff all day. And we're out in Michael Wallen's backyard shooting bow and arrows straight up in the air. And then that got boring. And then I said, watch this. And I pulled that bow and arrow back and I let it fly through Mill Village. I had no idea where it was going. Stupid, so dumb. Should have got a spanking. Guess what I did? Because I shot that arrow and it left that yard, past another yard, across the street into a third yard. My father, the mailman in Mill Village, said he was delivering mail, going up to the porch like you did in the old days. Come on, somebody. And he heard and an arrow hit the ground maybe 6 feet from him. He picked up that arrow and he saw my initials on it. He already knew who it's from, probably. But I wrote my initials on there because there was a bunch of us. I didn't want to lose them. And he didn't stop his route, kept working the route, came around to my friend Mike's house, holding the arrow. That was the end of archery. We moved on to something else. You know, summertime in a mill village in the 1970s and 80s, just a whole different world and a lot of fun. And, you know, and I think about some of the memories. We were going to build a clubhouse one time. That lasted about 2 days. You know, we go around finding wood from people, you know, just, you know, hey, can we have that? Sure. Can we have that? Sure. And we built it. We worked hard on it. I have no construction background still to this day, people. And we got it going a little bit, framed a little bit. Then we go home. We come back the next morning, and some of the older kids had set it on fire and just destroyed it. And I'm like, well, so much for that. But you move on because, man, we had 3 months to kill. I remember we went on vacation. That was a week. But the rest of the time, Monday through Friday, I'm in Mill Village at Mamaw Brock's, and I'm looking for stuff to do. And that's the kind of stuff we'd get into. Football, always football, tackle football, baseball out at the ball field, shoot hoops for a while. As I got older, as soon as you get a car, everything changes, or your friend is old enough to drive. I remember when I was in 8th grade, there was this guy in my class. I can tell you his name, and if you're from Chickamauga, you'll know. But he was in, I think it was 8th grade, maybe 9th grade. But he could drive in the 9th grade. And that wasn't because he was so smart. That's because he got held back twice. And he decided we're going to have a sleepover at my house, and he was going to drive down there. And my dad, somehow, I convinced my mom and dad to let all the parents had to okay it, ride with him to the movies, and then come back to my house. Everybody spend the night. There were like 5 of us. And I live at 311 Hog Jow Road, Chickamauga, Georgia, like 30 minutes from the movie theater. And man, when we got in that car by ourselves, that was liberty, man. That's the first time I think I'd been in a car without an adult, you know, and just me. And he about wrecked 3 times. I remember one time he was driving so fast, a deer shot out or something shot out. He lost control, went up into somebody's yard that we knew, tore their yard all to pieces, and then he just took off. And we thought we got away with it. Listen, we live in a small town. You get away with some stuff, but not everything you think you do. That's why I'm amazed today with Ring cameras, with cameras everywhere, with cell phones recording. I'd have never made it. It was bad enough in the 1900s, just word of mouth. When your daddy's a mailman in your town, word of mouth will get you almost every time and get you in trouble, which is nuts. But man, I going back to this whole summer thing, you know, think about some of the fun you had. If you know the movie Sandlot, if you haven't seen it, it's a great feel-good story. I mean, and it's one of those, I don't think it's got I don't think, don't hold Big Rich to it. I don't think it's got any swear words. Uh, it's a cool little movie and a lot about childhood and life and friendship. And one of the things that I hope you see, and like with my podcast, I might be talking about a subject, but I'm also trying to hit home on something important. When I'm talking about the summers of when I was a kid growing up around Mill Village, I'm talking about the hardworking father that I had and my mom doing what they had to do to make life good for their family, which was me, my grandma, my pap, reading the scriptures every morning and heading off to work. Man, my pap was as dedicated. His work ethic was strong. My father's strong. Talking about my childhood friends and the some of those guys I'm still friends with today. I don't see them often, but when I see them, man, we catch up right where we left off. And I'm sure there's people like that in your life. And the older I get and the more, and I'm not, I laugh. I'm not internet famous. I'm not comedy famous. I'm local celebrity famous, meaning the little towns I go to, I get recognized. This happens, that sometimes. And I appreciate it. I'm very thankful to get to do what I do full time and bring hope one laugh at a time and encourage people. So, what I want you to see in this is the fact that when I'm out and about and getting to do what I love for a living, man, I don't take that lightly. And whatever it is you do, some folks are living their dream. Some folks are working a job. I've done both. And I'm telling you, working a job, kudos to you. And you know the difference. If you're working one, you know the difference because I worked a job I didn't like for years. I worked a job that the stress of it, the anxiety of it, just come Sunday at about 3 o'clock, my brain would just because I knew what was coming Monday morning. And that's not the way to live, friend. Yes, we got to provide. Yes, if the Bible says you don't work, you don't eat. You got to take care of things. But you can also downsize your life. Come on, somebody. I made that decision. After my kids got grown, I wanted to pursue comedy. I'm like, okay, I got some decisions to make. If I want to make this work, something's got to sacrifice. So it might be your time. It might be your time goofing off. It might be how much money you spend. Something you're going to have to sacrifice probably for a season. If you're independently wealthy or you got a silver spoon, you already got issues probably. But the thing I want you to see is whatever it is you're doing, man, enjoy it. And if you're like, Big Rich, I wish, but I got five. I talked to somebody and they have a job. They can retire maybe 7 years. They do comedy on the side. We work together on occasion, and he's a little bit younger, and he'll be like, Big Rich, I want to do what you're doing. Man, and he'd be like, I want to do what you're doing. And he gets kind of aggravated that he's not. And he's got a great wife. He's got a beautiful child, teenage child. And he's like, man, I want to do what you're doing. And I said, you can. He goes, really? How? I said, well, you're going to have to get divorced and be a deadbeat dad. I mean, that's the only chance right now. And he just looks at me and I said, I'm teasing. You can have this in 7 years. I waited 50 before I jumped out into this and tried it. You don't have to wait that long. You're already doing some stuff. And I want you to enjoy your day. Have a good time, man. I appreciate all you guys that are following, that are listening. If you're in the Calhoun, Georgia area, Saturday night, the 18th of July, Hevel Brewing Company, Big Rich, Jason Hedden, the founder of Panama City Comedy. Jason's open for Dusty Slay, Henry Cho, Kevin Nealon, Tim Mattas. He is a great comedian, clean show, good people. Hevel Brewery, they'll good beer, man, good times. We got the Hibachi World food truck going to be there. You can get pizza and wings there at the facility. It's going to be a good night. Show's at 7:00. Man, we'll get you home in time to get you to church tomorrow, or we'll keep you out all night. Your choice. Get your tickets at bigrichbrock.com. Don't wait around. It's more expensive at the door. I appreciate you. Hope you have a great day. Big God bless you. And I'll see you next week. Come on, somebody.